All right. Shalom, family. It's your brother Kanaiba coming at you again with this video titled, The Wife, a Prized Possession. So, living in the midst of a society that teaches the Luciferian doctrine known as feminism, we live in a society where it's frowned upon to look at a woman as a man's possession, okay? But when you read the scriptures show you clearly that a wife is a man's possession. And it's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing demeaning about it or anything like that. It's just that the woman was created for a specific purpose, to be a helpmate, okay? And, women are taught to fight against their natural role, okay? But what I want to do is I want to go into the scriptures and actually show without a shadow of a doubt that a wife is indeed the husband's possession. And depending on what type of wife you are, you can be a prized possession. Okay? Because again, the woman's greatest calling is to be that of a wife first and a mother. Okay? So let's get into the scriptures and see what we have. All right. This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 36 and verse 24. And it reads, He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest. Notice it says he beginneth a possession, because this is what the wife is, okay? She is her husband's possession, all right? And again, depending on what type of wife she is, she can be a prized possession, okay? Something to be cherished, all right? But just because a woman is a wife doesn't mean she's a prize, okay? Because you have wicked wives out there, and we're going to get into that too, but to stay on topic, let's look at this, the aspect of her being a prized possession. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 4, and it reads, A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. Okay, so let's look at the beginning of the verse and notice it says a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. Not just any woman. It didn't say a woman is a crown to her husband. It said a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, a woman of virtue, a righteous woman who displays righteous deeds. Okay, you can read about the virtuous woman, of course, in Proverbs chapter 31, which we'll be going there a little later. But the point is about this verse, notice how it mentioned a crown, how she's a crown to her husband. Now, let me ask you people something. Is a crown not a possession? See? And not only is a crown a possession, it's a prized possession. Okay, so this is what a virtuous woman is to her husband, a prized possession. Okay, now before we move forward, let's actually go into the law and prove that the wife is actually a possession to her husband. Okay, let's take a look at this. It's the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 17, and it reads, Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Okay. So when we read this verse, it's about not coveting anything that's your neighbor's. Okay. Your neighbor being your fellow Israelite. Okay. So notice how it mentioned the manservant, the maidservant, the ox, the ass, and everything like that. Now, we know those things are possessions, right or wrong. Okay, those things are indeed possessions. Now, riddle me this. Why is the wife mentioned amongst those things not to covet? I'll tell you why. Because the wife is also a possession. Okay? This is right here in the law, right in front of our face. Okay? But now let's go back to Proverbs chapter 12 and pick back up where we left off at. All right? This is Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 4. And it reads, "A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones." Okay, so again, the beginning of the verse says that a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, right? Now, I want you all to ponder upon this, okay? Especially you women that's listening, all right? You sisters. When you look at somebody, or when you look at a man that's a king, okay? Just looking at his countenance, okay? Looking at his outward appearance, what is it that is a clear indicator that this man is a king? Just think about it. When you see somebody at first glance and you say, oh, that person must be a king or some type of royalty, what's the dead giveaway? Okay, I gave you a second to ponder upon it, and now I'll give you the answer. This person usually has a crown on their head, okay? This crown helps identify that this man is a king, okay? So now, having said that, and the scripture says that a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, what does that say about the wife? It should let you know that a man can be known by his wife, okay? His reputation, in a sense, is tied to what type of woman he has, okay? Now, to prove that, let's go to the famous Proverbs chapter 31 about the virtuous woman, and let's see what it says, all right? This is Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 10, and it reads, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies." Okay, so we see that this verse is focused on the virtuous woman. All right. And the virtuous woman, her price or her worth is far above rubies. Now, why is this important? Because when dealing with rubies, it's something that's rare. Okay? The more rare something is, the higher value it is. And this too is important because of what we read about in Proverbs chapter 12 about the virtuous woman being a crown to her husband. Okay? Is a crown not worth a lot the same way rubies are? You see how the two connect? The crown, that's a prized possession, is also of high worth the same way the virtuous woman is. The virtuous woman also being what? A prized possession to her husband. Okay? You women have to stop looking at being a possession as something that's demeaning. Okay? Because again, look at a king's crown. You know, a crown is not an object that's looked at as something that's demeaning. Okay? A king typically cherishes his crown. Okay? Which in actuality goes right into Ephesians, the 5th chapter, where it talks about how the husband never yet hated his own flesh, but nourisheth and cherisheth it. Okay, the same way a king cherishes his crown. Okay, so if a king cherishes his crown, how much more an actual wife, which is also a possession. Okay, what has to happen is this: the scriptures, when you read Isaiah, the 4th chapter, not to get too far off topic, but it speaks about the filth of the daughters of Zion. Okay, and part of that filth, or a major part of that filth, is the mindset of the daughters of Zion. Okay, that mindset being the Luciferian ideology that they've been taught, known as feminism. That is a large part of the filth of the daughters of Zion that has to be washed away from them. Okay, you have to put that mindset away and look towards the old ways, as the scriptures tell us. All right. So let's jump down to verse 23 in Proverbs, the 31st chapter. And it reads, "Her husband is known in the gates, when he sitteth among the elders of the land." So when you read Proverbs chapter 31, starting at verse 10, all the way to the end of the chapter, it's about the virtuous woman. So why is it that her husband is mentioned in verse 23 about how he's known in the gates? It should be obvious. He is known because of her. Because a husband's reputation is largely tied to the type of woman he has. Okay? Because the wife is supposed to be a reflection of her husband. All right? And this should be obvious because even from a carnal perspective, we understand this. All right? When you look at Jay-Z, okay, part of Jay-Z's reputation, or I'll even go on to say a large part of his reputation, is tied to who his wife is. Whenever you think of Jay-Z, it's hard not to even think about Beyonce in the same thought process. Okay? We know Jay-Z because he's married to Beyonce. Now, that's not to say that, Jay-Z wasn't known before he got married to Beyonce. A lot of people knew Jay-Z. But today, his fame grew even more once he married Beyonce. And this is just from a carnal perspective. So how much more a righteous man, how much more will his fame grow because of the righteous and the virtuous woman that he's married to, that prized possession that he has? All right. Now let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 26 and verse 1. And it reads, "Blessed is the man that hath a virtuous wife, for the number of his days shall be doubled." Now, again, this is dealing with the virtuous wife. And notice how it says the number of his days shall be doubled. Now, this links up right with Proverbs chapter 31. Because when you read Proverbs chapter 31, it says that she will do him good and not evil all the days of his life. Talking about how she deals with her husband. So, with that being said, the number of his days shall be doubled. All right. This goes into her being a prized possession. Okay. So moving on, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 26 and verse 2. And it reads, "A virtuous woman rejoiceth her husband, and he shall fulfill the years of his life in peace." Now, why is this important? Because this goes back to the prized possession that we read about in Ecclesiastes chapter 36, which says that she is a pillar of rest. Okay, talking about that prized possession. So since that prized possession is a pillar of rest, that means that the husband is going to fulfill the years of his life in peace, as we see in Ecclesiastes chapter 26. You see how the two link up, okay? This is the wife that is a prized possession, okay? Letting us know that in order for a wife to be a prized possession, she has to be a virtuous woman, all right? Now, what we have to understand is this. Just because a woman is a wife does not mean she's a prized possession. I said this earlier, okay? She is a possession because she's a wife, but that doesn't mean she's a prized possession. You have to be a virtuous woman to be a prized possession. Because let me give you an example. Look at everything that happened with Will Smith last year, dealing with his wife, Jada. And look at the dishonor she brought to him. Now, would you say that she was a prized possession? Nah, I don't think so. All right. So going back to Ecclesiastes chapter 26, and this is verse 3, and it reads, "A good wife," which is that virtuous wife, "is a good portion, which shall be given in the portion of them that fear the Lord." Okay. So there are perks to being that prized possession. You being a prized possession as a woman, you get a man of the Lord. Okay? If you're that virtuous woman, you get a man of the Lord. Okay? And there are perks that comes with that. A lot of perks. So now I want to go back to Ecclesiastes chapter 36 and look at one of those perks. All right? Let's take a look. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 36 and verse 24, and it reads, "He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest." Now pay close attention to the next verse, verse 25, and it reads, "Where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled. And he that hath no wife will wander up and down mourning." So the beginning of verse 25 says what? Where no hedge is, the word hedge is dealing with protection. It says there the possession, which is the wife, is spoiled. The word spoiled is dealing with being overtaken or taken away, so to speak. All right. So what does this let us know? That one of the perks of being that possession or a prized possession to a man of the Lord is you as a woman, you get protection. Okay. And that protection comes in the form of physical protection, mental, emotional, and most importantly, spiritual protection, okay, from all these different Luciferian doctrines that's out there today, amongst other things. But that spiritual protection is really what's most important. But you have to understand, too, that in the days to come, and I'm speaking about Jacob's trouble, that physical protection is going to be much needed. Okay? You're going to want that hedge as a woman. And I guarantee you this, in that day, there won't be any women saying, "I don't need a man." Okay? That phrase is going to be foreign in those days. Okay? Because it's going to be rare to even find a man, let alone a man of the Lord. Okay? Men of the Lord are going to be highly sought after. Okay, because we're the only ones that's really going to have the answers to what's going on, amongst other things. A lot of brothers are going to be given that spiritual power in that day to provide that protection. All right. So it would behoove women to aspire to be that virtuous woman so that, the Lord will have mercy on you in that day. All right. Now let's wrap it up with these last verses. This is the book of Job, chapter 19 and verse 9. And it reads, "He hath stripped me of my glory and taken the crown from my head." Now I bring up this verse because there's something important here. Notice how the word glory and crown are linked in this particular verse. Because when you think about a king, a large part of his glory is his what? His crown. Okay? And what have we already established in this lesson? That the virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. She's a prized possession. All right? So what this lets us know, or what this sheds light on, is the hierarchy or the order that the Most High set up. Okay? Let's take a look at this. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 7. And it reads, "For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of God." Now watch this. "But the woman is the glory of the man." Now it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Again, we already established that a part of a king's glory is the crown that he has. That's what identifies him as a king. Okay? So now we see here in 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 7 that the woman is the glory of the man. That's why the virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. All right? She is a prized possession. Okay? So like I said before, there's nothing bad or demeaning or anything like that about a woman being a possession to her husband, because that's what a wife is. But in order for you to be a prized possession, you have to be that virtuous woman. That's what Israelite sisters should be aspiring to be. Okay? That virtuous woman that you read about in the scriptures. Okay? So I believe this is probably a good place to end the lesson. Again, the name of this lesson is The Wife, a Prized Possession. And I hope you sisters learned that, being a possession to your husband, like I said, it's not a bad thing. Okay? The Most High, he is a God of order. Okay? And that's the order he set up. The Most High Yahweh is over Yahweh Shai, his son. Yahweh Shai, he is over the man. And the man is over the woman. The woman is over the children. Okay? That's the order. That's the hierarchy. All right? But, again, I'm glad you brothers and sisters were able to tune in. I give all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai. And until next time, Shalom, family.